listening to Polymatic.media, episode 46 for September 9th, 2018. Welcome to the Polymaticast. Hey, John, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Yeah. I'm on the heels of a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So, better. So that's the shortest answer, because when we last talked, it was the onslaught was starting to occur. It was very much in the very beginning of it. So I'm now well past a lot of that, and much better place right now.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Yeah. I've had spent some time with the Pixel 2 XL.
You liking it?
I do enjoy it. Obviously, I got the latest. What is it? They're not into. It's in peppermint now. Is that what it is? Is that what the P is? Oh, maybe it's Pi. I can't even remember what Android 9 is.
Pi.
Is it Pi?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple little things that if you go search around and you seek them out and you turn them on, there's a couple little changes. Certainly with the Pixel 1, you could use the fingerprint reader as like a swipe mechanism in the back of the phone for several things. And so I want to go look around and turn that stuff on. And I saw that Marquez was talking about some change, and I finally found it. I found it by happenstance. They changed sort of the home button. Instead of it being three options, it's just a back and a home button. And it's a little simpler. But it's been taking me a fraction of a second to get used to it.
Can you still switch between applications?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You still could. You just don't have a dedicated. What you do is it's a different kind of. Instead of being just a circle, it's this little. I don't know. It's like a dash. It's a round dash, basically. And what you do is you tap it to go back to home. You hold down on it for a second. It'll bring up the assistant. If you swipe up over it, what it does is it gives you the task view.
Okay.
And you can, you apparently can, and I have not tried. Yeah. I'm doing it right now. What you can do is you can kind of, when you're in that mode, if you use it like a scroll bar, it will also sort of act as a fast sort of swipe left-right scroll bar for all your active things. So, so I don't know. I've been getting a little used to it. It's not bad. The thing that I am impressed with, because I've had a couple occurrences where I've used the camera, it is actually as good as everyone says. I'm always a little suspect about these things, but it's until you actually witness it yourself. It really shows its hand how amazing it can be.
Was it worth the investment?
Or
are you going to sell it as soon as you can?
I think what my plan is, as long as it's in good shape, and if I have the fiscal bandwidth to do it, because you got to keep in mind I'm recycling through this, put a big dent into my Tesla deposit. If I got the finances and the timing works out, maybe what I'll do is I will buy the new one. But again, you got to put another $1,000 outright, right? You got to have that cash sitting around, and then do a trade-in. And obviously the trade-in, I'll get $400 back from Google, as long as it's in good shape. So maybe from that perspective, it might be worth it. It's a matter of whether how strongly I desire the new hotness. There was nothing wrong with my Pixel 1 up to the point until I broke it. You dropped it in the toilet. That I felt the need to get, the Pixel 2. So that's why I was going to skip to the 3. But I'm not so urgent to get the 3, but I probably want to get the 3. But I got to see what it's all about first. Yeah. And especially if the camera is improved. But if your goal or the reason for your rationale is to spend $800 on a phone because it's got a pretty awesome camera, and I'm not going to buy another DSLR camera over, because I can get it all on my smartphone. If your reason for rationale is related to the camera over buying a real DSLR, I would say buy a real DSLR. camera, right? Don't 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 not put that $800, $1,000. You might, if the real reasoning for you is the camera, like
Yeah.
having a pretty banging camera, buy yourself a real good camera, over spending $1,000 on the phone for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's your driving factor,
Well, also, if you have a phone that has a very good camera, it's a thing
yeah,
that you can take away with you whenever you want to.
right.
It's the camera you have in your pocket that's the most valuable one, right?
Depends, right? So it depends on when you take pictures. If you are a camera centric person, you take pictures of everything: your food, your feet, your haircut, your toothpaste, your sink, how clean your shower is. Oh, look at my new muffin I just made. Like, if you are one of those people, that is the most important camera that you own. And if short of having a selfie of you every moment possible, good and bad, is important to you and your career, yeah, that is the most important camera. If taking a good picture when you're in the mode of taking pictures, then a DLSR camera probably is your better priority. That's my opinion. And that's how I run my world. Now, also, I don't take pictures of everything. And I'm also not, it's not part of my career path, right? That my looks have a lot to do with my career path, or my career optionality. So as a result of that, I don't need that component in my life to be the most representative thing for me in my pocket. So while I hear people say that, to me, that is so not true. And I'm probably more the exception than the rule. So did that answer your question?
I didn't actually ask a question, but hey.
Well, hey. You made a comment, so I thought it was important to jump on the comment because I hear people say that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's really true. Evaluate yourself first before you make that decision. So like, that's kind of my perspective. So yeah, great camera, and I can send you some pictures. I'm just surprised when you zoom in a little bit. Like, I can still see details that I normally wouldn't see with even pretty good cameras, right? You see some blurry noise or whatever it is. So at work yesterday for me, they do this thing when it's sort of end of summer where they sort of have a car show in the company parking lot. And anyone's got a fancy car or a fun car, a unique car or a motorcycle they want to bring. And people they judge. And so anyhow, I took some pictures and I'm probably 2 feet away. And then I zoomed in and I go, holy crud, I can still read the detail on the metaling of that canister on the fire truck. It's kind of neat to see how good the quality is. Yeah. And that it wasn't just this blurry, pixely, noisy mess. Like, the quality on this thing is fantastic. But it will never replace like a real prosumer, actual camera with real optics and bigger sensor.
It's going to be a while before I get anything with Android Pie on it because I just renewed my contract for T-Mobile.
Oh, okay.
And I just said, okay, no phone, no phone plan, no nothing, just simple internet. That's it. Internet and phone calls. That's it.
I thought you were going to drive on to the Pixel 3 or you were going to maybe get the 9, the Samsung 9.
But no, definitely not a Samsung. I hate my Samsung Edge, 7 Edge. I hate it. I hate it with such a passion.
Because of all the manufacturer stuff?
Oh, it's so bad.
Oh, okay.
I hate it. I just want to see it burn. Not really see it burn, but you get the point.
Yeah, as long as I can maintain this track of being on stock and on sort of carrier light, communication carrier, I'm going to try to stay on that path as long as possible. I can tell you though, while I put some money up front, the benefit, the cost analysis, the money that I've been saving significantly on my cell usage has been fantastic. So it sort of has paid for itself a lot.
Well, a lot of the services that those providers provide, they're not that expensive. They shouldn't be that expensive.
No.
It's like yeah, it's great that you put all the work into the network, air
Mm-hmm.
quotes, but 99% of the time that's either state sponsored or something else,
Yeah.
right? So
I get that we were paying the mortgage in the first 10 years of that stuff here in the US, but we've been well past that for a very long time. And I get some carriers are going to charge you $100 for the potential option and the priority over the stuff. And it's nice and neat, but it's kind of like your car inside, you know, your car is 92% not on the road. It's in your driveway, in your garage, in a parking spot,
yeah,
right? It is. You pay for a lot of possibility that you don't employ,
yeah,
and so that's the same thing that goes with the cell phone networks. If you're anywhere where there's Wi-Fi, um, you're on that, and as long as your carrier has kind of changed the phone format or operating system to deploy its voice, technology over VoIP instead of over its cell network, um, you really shouldn't be paying $100+ a month
yeah.
for a plan, or $100 close with all kinds of extra charges and taxes. Like, we probably shouldn't, right? They've benefited from us paying their mortgage a long time ago.
Well, and then there's people who have like mini cells in their house because
Right,
the cell
femtos.
service is really shitty.
Yeah, femtos.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway, so I have been trying out something new. Well, not something new. I've been trying out different to-do lists for a while now.
Yeah.
I've tried Todoist. I've tried Trello. I've tried Wunderlist. I've tried pen and paper. All sorts of other stuff. And I think that pen and paper still is a favorite of mine because I can write it down and just cross it off, and it'll be just a physical action of finishing something, right? So that's still a good one. But I've been trying out OmniFocus. Now, I heard about OmniFocus from Hello Internet, from CGP Grey. Apparently, he uses it. And I've seen it before, and I thought, should I try it? It's a bit expensive. All right, so I've been using the trial for about a week now, and I like the way that it works. And it's different from other lists in subtle ways. The ability to create perspectives, like, for example, everything related to your work, everything related to the projects you've been working on. You can make projects, and within that project you can make other projects, and within that you can make items, and they can have like due dates, they can have repeat dates, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty cool. I use these lists a lot because it's hard to keep track of all the stuff I need to do. I sometimes forget stuff to do, I need to do. So sometimes I put it in calendar if I really need to remember it.
So is focus only one of your challenges? Because I'm trying to like get a sense of what is the thing that is your biggest obstacle that you've identified, that you feel that you need some productivity tools to help you manage.
Being a lazy dude. I'm as lazy as they come.
So let's dig into that a little bit. So the laziness, is that a matter of can't prioritize the choice, or is it a combination of not feeling motivated, or some third thing, like something external that, like, you're seeking the most entertaining distraction first? Like, what is it that's like getting you?
It's more like I can get a lot more done in my time, and I want to get more done.
Right. Okay. So you need something to kind of help you prioritize and track.
Yeah.
The decision making that you're spending your time on.
Mostly tracking the stuff that I need to do.
Okay.
It's not as much. I don't want to forget that I had to buy certain things. Like, I have to buy some stuff for my hamsters, right? Sometimes I forget that, and then I'm like, oh, shit.
Right. Got you.
Didn't buy.
So you need something to sort of manage manage the ideas to priorities to execution.
Yeah, but it's also for projects like, for example, the art book I'm working on. I put specific deadlines for specific things in the list, and then I know that I have to work on this during the weekend, right? So I know I had to work on this for this week, and I have 2 pages. I think 2 pages a week.
Got you. So you're using OmniFocus right now. You're trying this out.
Yeah.
To sort of formalize the want to an actualization, so where you can kind of follow through.
It's more.
And
it's
this
more like,
isn't. This is you're just using this for. Are you using this for work too, or are you just using it for personal projects?
Everything.
Everything.
I have some stuff in there for family stuff. I have some stuff in there for the art book. I have some stuff in there for my home, for my pets, for YouTube stuff, for Polymatic, and for work. And for work, I have several projects in there. Like, for example, I have the weekly team meeting in there. For the monthly stuff, I have the invoicing, the reminders, the second reminders, the sending stuff to the collection agency, stuff like that. So yeah, there's lots of stuff in there that I sometimes forget, and I put them in my calendar, but the calendar is not great enough, not good enough.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of the tools that you have played with and used, because then I'll probably rant on sort of what my perspective has been on this.
I think that all of them so far have been too simple.
Or they do one thing too precisely, right?
They're not powerful enough,
right?
And I think that OmniFocus has that power.
Got ya. There was in early days of Android, like we're talking like 2.0, 3.0 versions of Android, there was this app, and I feel like I can't remember, that was it sounds a little bit probably not as much on crack like what it sounds like OmniFocus probably is, but allowed you to construct more than one, like multiple degree groupings and stuff. Yeah. It was a little bit difficult if you decided you wanted to reorganize it. There was no easy way of doing it, right? And this is something like would have been better shipped as like a desktop tool where you can drag and drop and whatever. Yeah. And just certain things didn't exist for this tool, and it wasn't growing up. And so I ditched it. And for the life of me, I can't remember what that tool was. But for me, like when I looked at Wunderlist for Wunderlist for a moment, and I don't know, I needed something more. Yeah. And it just wasn't enough. And so then there was AnyDo, but they want you to pay, and even then it was really good visually, and I liked how the organization and thinking, but I was like, I'm not going to spend $5 a month for this, $60 a year for this. That's not worth it. That's
kind of the thing that I have with the Todoist. Todoist, you have to pay per month.
Right.
And so the thing with OmniFocus, it's expensive,
right,
but you buy the application, and it's like, right, like it's like $50 or $60 for the you have the 40 something is for the basic one, and then for the pro it's like $60 or $70.
But then you buy it, and then
you buy it, and it's yours.
Yeah,
right? And you can put it on as many iOS devices if you want.
Yeah, and so that's the one thing that I like about, like, Android world, the App Store. At least that's something they shifted differently, because in the old days you spend $50, and then next year when it comes out you spend another $50, and I'm like, what's up with that? And here it's like with the life of the Android version, right, or the iOS version. So so I mean, like Wunderlist, I liked it, but I didn't love it. And then I went through an iteration of different ones trying to figure out all these to-do lists. And then I finally hit Trello, and Trello is pretty good, but it's very difficult to kind of organize group of things inside of the group of things. Like, you just have to create a fleet of boards to micro focus on something. Yeah. And so what I end up doing most of the time with Trello is I create the list, I create a card, and then I create multiple checklists. And commentary I wish was a little better because it sort of just like throws into a commentary at the bottom of a, like I would like them to have like a loggable item. And then the item there then has your list view or your, deep focus view of all your commentary, right? And so while you're like, well, and you're just talking about Jira, like, okay, I get it, I get all that stuff. And it's like, well, I really love the Kanban approach to, like, okay, I get it. The fancy section is, I get it. It's fun, but I need something that's functional and productive as well as not a piece of shit when it comes to UI. And for me, Trello just wasn't that. While I use it for some things to track ideas, it's not complete for me. And I had the same kind of problem. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up figuring out the puzzle pieces to, the crack the Rubik's Cube, so to speak. I figured out where what I do is when I initially start something, whether I write it down on a piece of paper or I write it in something like Trello or I document in some other things, I need to write my ideas down while they're there to capture and plug them in. And then I organize them into something else that coalesces into a larger list of what the thinking was. And then I put as limited commentary on it as possible because you can't really do that on a checklist item in, Trello, because it's really a 1 degree. Here's an item, here's a thing. It's attached to a group and a card and a list and a board. And while I recognize there's lots of, like, to achieve that one feature, I have to do these 9 little subtasks. And I would love to be able to have a thing instead of making those subtasks their own cards with to-do lists and then throwing that card into a list that is the primary task and then having 14 lists on my board. Like, to me, that just, I can't organize that way. My head wants to sort of micromanage it a little bit more cohesively.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it with Trello. I think it's really good for the conceptual idea of like a workplace type of scenario where you're moving Post-its around. And that's exactly kind of what its design is based on, just like Wunderlist was based on. So for me, these tools are, to your point, just not complete enough.
Yeah.
And I think for me to capture and track. But when I start out a thing, I shove all the stuff in, and I wrestle with how I'm going to organize this, and I track it a little bit, and then that effort right there sort of kicks my butt and gets me organized in my brain, and then the rest of my brain takes over and says, okay, I got it, and has a mental checklist of things. And so I use these tools for like a kickstart for a moment, and then the moment passes, and then I try to get back to using them, and I've already achieved all those things on a Saturday morning.
That's kind of the thing, right?
So my mental state of it has already sorted itself out, and I can keep track of it in my head.
For me, it's more of like so I use these tools to forget about the stuff I need to do. When I look at my list, it's usually stuff that there are some projects in there because I need to do certain things by certain dates. But there's also stuff that I need to do, like the more regular stuff, like, for example, grabbing stuff for hamsters, getting their needs taken care of. And it's not like because I forget them, because sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I should really have some extra stuff, but I forgot to pick it up, and it's already past the shop times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these types of things, or forgetting to reach out to family, say, hey, I'm still alive, and so they don't start bothering me with that kind of stuff.
Right. So.
Or contracts, like, for example, the phone contracts that I'm dealing with, or the energy contracts for my apartment, mm-hmm. or stuff that I want to buy for the apartment, like, for example, new desk, because this desk is getting old and I need to get a new desk or a new chair or stuff like that. It's like all these things. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, I'll think about this at the end of the month, right? When a paycheck
Yeah.
hits me, then I can go and get these things taken care of. And then I can put them aside, and I don't focus on that stuff anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, I should really get that new chair. I should really get that new chair. Should not forget about the new chair. And that's stuff that keeps haunting around in my mind, and I need to go get that
Right.
chair, and then I eventually just go to IKEA and just get the new chair.
Right.
Which is something that's better suited for the end of the month.
So the way I manage things, if I'm managing floating ideas, which are a combo of things I need to work on for unnamed app I've been working on, or idea of a snippet of a writing piece that I can use for This Otaku's Life, or an idea for a new podcast show. Let's see if we can build a team for that, or whatever. Floating ideas. I use something simple like Keep, right? Google Keep. And syncs across all devices, and I can get to it by a website. I can get to it by Android phone. Works great for me for floating ideas, and I can put labels and tags around it. I understand that Gmail concept of labels. I really actually appreciate that over direct grouping mechanisms like folders, right?
Yeah.
And so that fluid nature with like labels and that whole combo with Keep is really great. And this is where things like OneNote and Evernote don't work for me.
I've tried those too.
They're too unnecessarily complex for somebody. There are some people that's how they work. That's how they think. I need to take a picture of this. Then I need to annotate all these things, and I'm going to put all this stuff all around it. And I look at it and go, take a picture, put my notes. Okay. Describe the and I don't need to feel the need to finger paint all over it. For me, I don't work that way. And then also record my thoughts, and then record a little dancing video of a kid, and then construct that together. And that's not how my creative mechanism works. I don't think that way. I don't stream that way. While I could do all that stuff, it would just look like it's about as free-forming of a discussion point of me whiteboarding something of a technical discussion for somebody to kind of bring them up to speed on a point. And that's it. I don't need to capture that digitally. It's just not that important to me. If I can describe it, I can reproduce explaining it. And so free-floating ideas, Keep is what I use. Well, regularly is the thing that I keep to hold me to a pattern of due dates. And I don't use it for work. I use it for podcast stuff, right? And I've talked about that app before. I don't know if there's a iOS equivalent. I know there is on Android.
I've got both. I've got both.
Yeah, and so it's a really good tool for that, and it's really simple, and it does actually have subtasks and all that stuff, and it's got more functionality in it than I use. And so for me, it literally is just simplified to podcasts. There you can see, right? I just checked off the, I don't know,
Polymaticast.
Where the monitor is, whether you can see.
Yeah, it's not focusing, man.
Okay, well, regardless of that, the point is that it's real simple, straightforward, and it gives me a log of did I achieve it and when did I achieve it, and is that off schedule, and it's making noise right now. So regardless of that, that's how I kind of keep those regular things like the podcast stuff in order, and then me keeping on top of dates. So that's kind of how I keep that going. And then for things that are like the ad hoc, the ideas of, I need to pick this up next time I'm at this store, or I want to get a pancake lens for my camera.
Yeah.
Or, I want to pick up some more shirts for work from, whatever, this clothing outlet, whatever. Then I have a whole different just basic to-do list app that does have some location stuff. So for example, if I'm at the supermarket, it goes, oh, dude, you associated this with the supermarket. You got these things you got to go pick up.
No, that's something that OmniFocus also does. It also shows allows you to put an area on a tag or on a project. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
Yep. So I use something called l.ist. It's a list basically, but there's a period in between for whatever reason. And again, it's just a really simple tool that does the simple things very well, just like regularly and Keep does. and it synchronizes, and I don't have to worry about it. And then Trello I use for various things. But again, I'm not an addict to it. It's the kind of thing you use with people. It's not. I've used it for myself, but like I said, sort of when I'm the only one who is the owner and the responsible nature of it, sometimes my brain is the only thing I need to kind of get past my organization points for it. And then
it's not like my brain forgets things. It's more like it could use a hint. Like, for example, when I need to put in the links for the show, stuff like that. That sometimes I just, oh yeah, shit, I forgot. It's Friday night. I still need to put them in.
Right, yeah.
Right. If I get them done by Thursday, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing really helped me this week. Cause it's like, oh yeah, Thursday. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just review what I need to do today. Great.
I
done.
just sort of shifted a little differently. I don't use these kind of tools really at work. I couldn't get my boss to adopt Trello. I tried a couple times to say, hey, can we take like 15 minutes? I can show you the power value add of this. And it's like, yeah. Never happened. And at some point, I'd see him sort of struggling with like trying to manage the various things. And I'm like, but this could be really useful. And then you could do a version of this to use it with the group so that you can kind of keep track of the free floating things that keep coming up and adding into our own stack of things. This is how you could use it. And he goes, yeah, I got it. I don't have time.
So about Trello, a couple of years ago, we had an anniversary for the company. We exist for 10 years. And then we had a project that I was working on, and I thought, I'll use Trello for that. So just put some of the project stuff that needs to be done in there. And then one of the people that was one of the project managers, he was like, oh, what's this? This is great. And then that infected the rest of the company eventually. And now I don't think they even use Jira anymore. But
so we used Jira at work because my boss uses
we still use Jira. Our part of the company still does it. It's great.
We're not really using it that effectively. And the thing is, I can't even get enough time to talk to my boss where he wants to be open-minded to see how some of these tools, even though it's a shift in his change of his pattern, where these could be really beneficial to helping him deal with sort of the heavy saturation of his schedule. And he is he's fundamentally, and he's not a really old guy, right? Either. He's just very based on picking up the phone, talking to people on conference calls, dealing with coordinating things through Excel sheets and emails. Yeah. That's it. That is the extreme nature of his comfort zone. And that's how he wants to do things. And he will do flowcharts as a specification to someone like me. But that's it. That's the level of, he doesn't get down into the details. He doesn't have it's just like, that is about the maximum amount of input and output that he wants to deal with. Though I know he's very capable of dealing with some better collaborative tools. And so my point about Trello is when I need to do something with a mutual group of people, or whatever that has been, in even though limited cases, I might employ the use of Trello. And then calendars, right? So calendars I use with my father. He wants a calendar entry, right? Actually, he doesn't want that. He just needs things to remind him, to tell him what and how. And he doesn't even use calendars, but I built the rapport with him that if we are on the same schedule for something, that I will put a calendar event in and then invite him. And then one of his 3 phones, it will, it'll sort him out or give him some advance notice.
His 3 phones is like worse than I am.
He does.
I have 2. I'm like, I have too many devices.
I can't explain it. They're all active. I don't want to explain it. That's not the point. The point is he's got too much. Instead of him figuring out to kind of blend them and work them all together, He's not. He's a very like one-to-one relationship to a device, to a thing. And so some of that I respect because that's how I sort of treat each of these tools. Like while Keep has got some reminder stuff and locational reminder stuff in it, and that's neat. The point of that is that I use those tools to their level of effectiveness instead of trying to put it all into one tool.
Yeah.
Because that has failed me. Trying to use Evernote. I wish I could get OneNote. I just don't like OneNote. I find it unnecessarily complex for the sake of being complex.
And it's
my brain is logical. I have to work more structured. I can't work sort of ad hoc all over the place.
That's the cool thing about OmniFocus. Even though I am that scatterbrained and doing things all the time, different things, different orders and stuff, this still helped me, getting stuff done. And within the last week, that's been, very very useful because it's been a busy week. So yeah. Also, I saw that Wunderlist has been taken over by Microsoft, and they are making a Microsoft To Do app. It's kind of like Wunderlist.
They have, I know that they have To Do features they've always had, or task features, or both of them actually, built into sort of the Office suite. It makes a lot of sense for businesses when you want to kind of bring all that stuff cohesively together. Makes a lot of sense you could employ that. But like when you get into the office in the office atmospheres, right? And like, for example, my boss works a certain way. He likes to work that way. He expects everyone to interact with him directly as a result of that, in that fashion only, because that is what he likes. That's the way he wants to deal with sorting out his schedule. And if you need his time related to work, you got to get on his schedule. Okay, so that's a respectable point of view. For me, that doesn't work so much, especially if you got small, specific surgical questions for me. So, while I employed Slack unofficially with a set of group of developers I had to work with for another project several years ago, I had it around for our division. I sort of built it for the division, not just for like one team. And so I employed it a little bit. I asked permission first before doing it, and my boss said, yeah, okay, whatever, go ahead, I don't care. And he didn't participate at all, but some of the other developers would communicate with me, especially if they weren't like 2 minutes or 30 feet away from me, right, where they can come to my desk and talk to me directly. They would send me a message, and I'd send them a piece of SQL back, or little snippets of code, or I rewrite a little piece of this and that and say, okay, try this, and here's the reasons why, and then I just sort of annotate. And I did that even if they were 30 feet away from me, because I wanted them to sort of be able to go back and look at it as a conversational piece about a thing they could remember. Oh, that's how I sorted that out, so that there could be a learning lesson in there. And so that worked really well for a few of us. But it doesn't work for my boss. We all just bug him. We just knock on his office and stop him, bug him, and even when we email him in between one of his 50, meetings in his day, he might eventually get back to you or apologize for not getting back to you, and then he might stop exactly what he's doing. And again, it's just sort of this, problem, right? Doesn't work. But he's very strong-minded about how he wants to work. So that's great. So he didn't like that some people were using Slack effectively to communicate with me, and he felt like I was pushing some kind of agenda. And so he said he was just sort of against using Slack, embracing it. And oh, by the way, this is not company policy. Company's not using it. They didn't say that we should. Again, just sort of the reasons not to. And the irony is someone created a company version of Slack that I don't have access to. So somebody in the company's already done this. So clearly somebody in the company is already using this for their their collaboration inside their teams.
Have you considered Mattermost, which is basically a Slack clone?
Right.
You can run in-house.
What did you say?
Mattermost.
Mattermost. Okay.
It's basically Slack, but for like internal stuff.
Okay. Yeah. No, I don't know that I've heard of it.
It's something we use.
There's like Doc.io is another one. Click. I'm part of the beta, but I get the emails from them all the time. It's more like a better management between project management and then the details. I think it's called ClickUp. That might be another one.
But
I'm not using Mattermost.
Mattermost is like something you can install on your own servers, so you can just have it internally.
Well, because we do lots of Microsoft stuff, and we have the Microsoft Office suite. Everyone gets a license, part of your whole Windows world of living, working in the company. I asked for us to, at least with my boss, I asked, hey, can we turn on MS Teams at the very least? And he didn't say no, because it was something other groups had used a little bit to some effectiveness in the company, and it falls into the non-objectional state of, well, the company doesn't really have a policy, but and turning it on was like a very little issue in terms of licensing.
Yeah, okay.
So he said he didn't say yes. He listened to me. He didn't object immediately. And then what he did is he wanted to independently, especially when I was out, he surveyed reasons to do it among sort of the team of other developers. And the other guys were like, well, yeah, I really like Slack. And if it's like Slack, yeah, I totally would love to use it. And so that was enough for him to say yes to it. And he said, yeah, you got my okay. And then I went to the guys, our Windows guys, and I had license upgrades happen. And then we all sort of got extra access to certain integrations that related to Office-related things like Skype for Business. So it allowed us to do Office-related things with each other more effectively. And then my boss has been on board with sort of doing a document store inside the team or the channel related to the team for different particular projects. And he's not caving in, but he's sort of on board with attempting to use it, especially if it can be a primary positive resource. So Microsoft's got all kinds of tools, and they've had all kinds of tools. And MS Teams is sort of their Office-centric version of Slack. Yeah. With the close integration of all the Office products. And so for them to I guess, acquire Wunderlist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, SharePoint is meant to be the Office-centric Office thing, exactly. And MS Teams is meant to be a different version of that. It is like overlap as well. Like Skype for Business is overlap for Skype for the consumer, except the Skype for consumer version is a lot better. One is for your organization as a company, and the other for your enterprise, and the other is for everybody. And I wish they kept those things together. Like they just made them one thing.
Well, it's the thing that happened with PCs, right? That's why Windows was so big for so long. Yeah, is because it was used in the offices, and right. Mm-hmm. That's how they got everybody, because everybody used it at home as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wish they closely. I think internally, and we see this with Google too, right? We have Allo, we have Duo, we have Messages. Then we have the carrier version of video calls. Like, okay, just do one thing, do it really well. Okay, they could have just done Duo and Allo together in one solution, straight up, be done.
Yep.
And why didn't you just do that? Well, why didn't you just do that? Oh, also, blend it in with like Hangouts too. Make it for businesses, for everyone, make it a one-centric thing. Don't don't try to segment out our solution for this and that. That's an old model that doesn't work. So why are you doing that? That makes no sense. And well, they're coming to grips with that. So they're going to do RCS, and then they'll still have Hangouts. And Hangouts is apparently for businesses, but I don't know. I live on a more Microsoft-centric world of business, so I don't know any businesses that are using officially Hangouts and Google Docs as their primary business, right? I know startups are. I know freelancers are, right?
The company I work for.
Right.
So yeah.
But I mean, those are limited use exceptions, right?
Yeah, but we don't use Hangouts. We use Slack for communication stuff.
Mm-hmm. If you pay for it, you can definitely do the conferencing built-in.
Yeah,
because of Screen Hero.
That's what we do.
Yeah, but where I work, we can now do it because of MS Teams if everyone is enabled with MS Teams, and not everyone has a management license, right? Yeah. So I mean that's a cost effectiveness, but yeah. So I don't know. I ranted for a lot. Sorry to dominate the conversation, John, like I always do.
Yeah,
I just none of these tools have been enough. So I will be curious in a month or so to see how well OmniFocus has got you focused.
Well, it's not to get me to focus. It's more to help me remind stuff. So I do stuff that I need to do. I put everything in there. It's just for certain things that I need to check them off that I have done them. And if I put everything in there, then I at least have an overview of everything I need to do. So I don't forget.
What I want to know is if OmniFocus is the end-all be-all tool to shiny toy syndrome.
We shall see. We shall see.
Because that's, I've sort of been struggling for this along on my own. And I spent a lot of time trying to use tools to do things. And I found that I'd rather manage the tools that I use that do certain specific things for myself and with other people. And I use very specific things for that. That's how well I work. Because each of them have a strength that is not been achieved well in one all be all end all solution. And so every time I see one of those things, I go, yeah, that so does not work for me. Right?
Well,
that
cool thing about
so
OmniFocus
is not logical. It doesn't function in a logical manner. It functions in abstract ways, and I can't organize abstractly. I think I organize in my head abstractly, but I action logically and structurally, if that makes any sense.
So I think OmniFocus also has like integrations with other tools.
Yeah.
So that could be useful. I haven't tried that yet. I've just scratched the surface of what's possible with this thing. Mm-hmm. But so far it's been better than all the other tools I've used in the past. So
okay. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out.
It's only on iOS, so.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's why I never checked it out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the equivalent of that is in Android. I will tell you, for me, it's not Evernote, and I will tell you it's also not OneNote. While I love the ubiquity of both of those things, they just don't work for me. I get a little irritated. I'm like, that's not how I want to organize my thoughts, my ideas, or structurally how I want to check things off. And oh, by the way, it drives me nuts. And I even said something, and while there's a couple people Microsoft people that follow me or know me a little bit by way of Twitter, I said something about, I just wish I understood OneNote. I was like, I wish I got the power and value of this because it's so integrated everywhere I am. I said, but I don't. And then the OneNote team popped out and say, hey, well, what are your concerns? What are your thoughts? And it wasn't even like, hey, why don't we pretend we talked to you? No, they were I said, okay, well, here's my concerns. This is how it doesn't work for me. Then this, and this, and this, and this. And I see that you built a great tool, but I structurally don't work this way, or this way. and I always get a little irritated when like these things are natively pushed on me in places in the operating systems, or like with the Office products where I can't uninstall it or remove it from my life. I get super irritated by that, and I wish I understood the value of why it was being pushed so hard on me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you for your feedback, right? And so maybe it went somewhere, maybe it went nowhere. But
the circular archive.
yeah, but it's the thing is, like, I clearly said up front, I said I hate when things are trying to push agendas on me, so I get a little pissed off about that. But outside of that, I wish I understood the value add of this set of approach, because that just never works for me.
Yeah.
I've been very good about like organizing my own life more or less, and then with some subsets with some tools. And I don't need something to abstractly structure my thoughts. Like, I have to structure my thoughts. I have to structure my thoughts, then understand what the structure is, and then commit to that, and then I am good to go. That's a matter of tracking the things I got to do, you know?
I think that's the thing that I like about this thing, about OmniFocus, because I get to organize it the way I want it to be, instead of it getting in the way.
Yeah.
And I can use the tools or I can not use the tools. But they have so many like features hidden in there that I've been exploring that and trying all of the different styles and things I can do with it. But I think in about a month or two, I think I'm going to buy the software. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be $60 because I want to have the pro version, because then I can do all the different perspectives and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a new version of the desktop app coming out. So there's OmniFocus 3, which is the one I have on the iOS devices, but there isn't one for Mac OS yet. There's OmniFocus 2 for Mac, so you can link those two with a WebDAV thing or via their servers, which is fine. That's what I use right now between my iPad and my phone.
Yeah.
But I want to use the desktop version because it allows me to enter things faster.
Yeah.
I can just install it on all my Macs, and I'm like, okay, I'll just write it out, and a keyboard and mouse I'm faster than everything typing things on screens. Right. So that's
yeah, and that's the value add of having cloud integration. So for some reason, if I don't want to use Slack on my phone because typing takes forever and people want to have long conversations with me. You know what I mean? Like, it's easier to have a conversation with over the desktop. You and I chat over Allo. And so I can make one simple conversations with lots of spelling mistakes in it on my phone, or I could just go over to the web browser and type.
Yeah, I use Allo for
Link
web too,
directly.
because it's so cool.
Yeah.
WhatsApp does that too, right?
WhatsApp has a thing too, yeah. And so what I can tell you, though, I learned very directly is I couldn't communicate with you with Allo for those 2 days or whatever until I sorted
because
out
it's
my
linked through the phone. Same thing with WhatsApp.
It goes through API stuff that has to actually tie to your phone. So if you lose your phone or it goes offline,
that's because it is encrypted through your phone.
Yep, it's only uniquely tied through the combination of your phone. And so WhatsApp has a version of this. Microsoft's got some stuff that's coming. The messages have never worked for me, but like the photo sync is working actually pretty nice. So they put new telephony API stuff on both sides. So that stuff's syncing pretty well. And so Microsoft has always had, across Windows devices, syncable options if you want to turn them on. Just like you can like AirDrop with Mac, you can do the same kind of things with Windows. It's just not as cohesive. And it's like a side project goal for them to bring that together. And so I'm seeing some of those changes in new Windows Insider releases. They're clearly have rethought out how they do that to date, without you having to like put Microsoft Launcher on your Android phone, right?
Yeah.
Instead of having to do something like that.
Not happening.
And so like that would make a lot of sense for me if I had that cohesive reasoning or usage for work. But I have a work phone and I have a personal phone, and those two worlds I keep as about as separate as possible, when possible. though no one ever calls me on my work phone. They call me on my personal phone. So I try to keep them separated, and well, it's not really that big of a problem for me at the moment. It does happen. So, those things would be great if they were all sort of unified, but they're not. I keep those worlds separate from each other.
I have a work phone. Well, basically, it's my personal phone. Both of them are. One of them is for work. I use work-related stuff.
Yeah.
And the other one is a personal stuff. So the iPhone is all personal. And some people have my personal phone number, but they don't call me on it because, I told them not to in very strict terms. And then at one point somebody did call me on it, which a person who I didn't know from another part of the office. I'm like, okay, so how did you get this phone number? So I traced it back to the boss. I'm like, yeah, don't give them this number, please. Do not give them this number ever. Make them forget the number.
I set this up very clearly in the last few companies that I worked at. I gave him a Google Voice number.
Yeah, but it's okay if he has the number
to me. And so I gave him that. And then when we had an escalation team, that's one of the things that my boss was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I can do that? And I'm like, yep. And so we give the Google Voice number out for people of authority who need to call us off hours. They call that, and then it'll go to whoever, right? And we can turn on and off numbers very easily.
Yeah.
And then I gave that, and I made one for just me for work-related stuff so that they can hit me up by my personal phone, my work phone, and or my office phone. Right? I gave him that number. But if my boss needs to call me, he calls me directly on my personal cell phone. So very rarely have people called us. They just email us, right? So I the value add is that I can kind of, I want to be able to manage how I let things manage me or how I let people manage me. And I want some indicator to know how that's happening.
It's okay. Reason. It's okay for my boss to have my phone number, right? Because I know him. I've known him for so many years that he's kind of a friend-ish, right?
Right.
And I understand that he gave out the phone number because that's the phone number he had in his phone for some reason. Right. It was like, okay, I'll just call him on this number. Yep. And that's the personal number he said. But it's like, okay, man, come on.
Yeah.
And you know how I feel about these things.
Right, but I know if I get a phone call through the Google Voice number, I know it's work related.
Yeah.
Because I manage the expectations and I've put the conditions on the expectations. It makes sense for me to give that to someone of authority when they need to call me and they're panicking about something. So call this number and it'll hit me up wherever I am. Whatever device is near me. And then I'll know it's work related. And they get that message clearly. And it's like, well, I just want your cell phone. No, just do this and it will communicate all the things. And then usually you can get them very quickly past the, well, how does this technology work? Conversation. Yeah. And I was able to do that pretty successfully with my boss. And then I demonstrated for him instantaneously. And he's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I go, yep. So that's how I would like to handle that. Is you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, I'm cool with that. But sometimes you got to get buy-in from people when you're trying to help manage expectations. It's always the buy-in. So.
But speaking of shiny new things, I had a vacation and I bought a new printer.
Okay. And?
I got the Ender 3.
Okay.
It's the Creality printer. It's the open source, their first open source printer.
Mm-hmm.
Completely open source. It even has certification for being open source. There was still some stuff about that recently, but I was like, yeah, okay. They did their best. I will buy this printer. And it wasn't expensive. It was like $270.
Well, that sounds pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I remember the days where most good printers
you can get
cost
it for
thousands of dollars.
Yeah, you can buy it for $200 from eBay, but you're gonna pay import tax. So right. So you're still gonna be out $50 or something.
You didn't buy it assembled? You're assembling it.
No, I assemble it. But
Okay,
the
got it.
the amount of assembly required is not that much. It can do it about an hour.
Oh, okay.
I did it a
You're
little bit
also
longer because I tried to record it and then the recording didn't work.
oh
And then there were stuff I need to fix because there was some tiny things wrong with it.
yeah.
They have like a they have a little they have a problem with the way that the Z motor is mounted. So
Mm-hmm.
it if you don't mount it correctly, it's crooked. So the corkscrew wheel that goes up that lifts the printer part, the hot end.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Head.
yeah. So the bar that has the head on it, um, that gets lifted by the screw. But that thing was crooked, not the screw, but the place where you place the motor. And the motor is also the place where the weight gets put. So if it is crooked, it will work, but not great. It will start making noises and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to print a shim for that on another printer and get that in there. But overall, it was pretty good. And in the
Yeah.
end, I fixed the problem with the crookedness because there was a plate on top of the. There's a board in there, a little controller board, and there was a metal plate. It's all steel, right? It's all steel and aluminum extrusions. So the steel plate was just a little bit off to the side, and they screwed it into the box. And if you put it, you take the box off, the top of the box off, and you put it back, but you shimmy it a little bit to the right, and then it fits perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and then it no longer has that offset.
Problem. Yeah.
So the whole problem could have been fixed by me just unscrewing that thing and screwing it back in. Wonderful,
But, yeah.
wonderful.
Well, look. I mean, cost. Is always a
Yeah, but
big.
for this, I have assembled printers
Right.
that are way less for way more. So
So.
I really like it so far, and I've been using Octoprint with it, so I can print over the network and say, just from my laptop, just look at what it's doing right now. Just say, okay, just start printing
Gaia.
using Cura.
So it's like an IoT device as well.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no,
that's
because
good.
I use Octoprint because I put a Pi, a Raspberry Pi with the Octoprint on it,
Hmm.
on the thing. So I attached it to it. There's some issues with power. I'm gonna try and splice in the power in the with the power supply. So the OctoPi is powered by the printer itself. So I
Gaia.
don't have to when I turn on the Raspberry Pi. It also powers the board for the printer, but it doesn't heat the printer. So it will try to draw power from the Raspberry Pi over the USB, which is not a good idea. But it will power the screen. It will boot up the board. But
Right. Gaia. Well,
so
that's good.
you turn on the printer first, and then you turn on the Raspberry Pi. But I need some sort of switches for that or something. Or maybe just a power brick that has a little switch on it and just turn everything on at the same time.
That's it. You're gonna be printing everything. Oh, I need a new spatula. Oh, I got 9 hours. I can wait till tomorrow.
Now the thing with the printer is that it has a bigger bed, so it is like 22 centimeters by 22 by 25. And from this, I surmised, I have some of these linear rails that I was using for a build for another 3D printer, which is a Delta 3D printer. I've been thinking about using those rails because I haven't been using that printer because I never actually got it to work.
Oh, Gaia.
And I have like two sets of this the stuff for the printer, to two printers actually, and I have like a 60 centimeter linear rails. I have like three versions of that, three instances. I have it 3 times.
Sets.
No, it's not a
Pairs.
set. It's like three of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've been thinking of building one from scratch, like building a printer from scratch. I have all the parts in my house. I need one more piece of aluminum extrusion, and then I can build whatever the hell I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about just doing that at some point. I have all the parts. I have everything I need, and I'm thinking of making like a video series out of that. So this little printer got me onto that idea, and I'm thinking of actually doing it.
There's your name for the channel right there. This old printer.
Nope, nope, nope. Yeah, no, I'm thinking of naming the projects Let's Make Mondays, and then making something every Monday. Well,
Hmm.
making something during the week and then reporting on it on Monday.
Yeah.
So maybe building a part of the printer, and then ordering some parts, doing that kind of stuff, like going from the concept from the napkin drawing basically to whatever I want to build, but not like in a week, but like every once in a while, just post something about that. And I think that's it's probably an interesting project to do, because I do a lot of this stuff. I just never document it. Right, I have lots of little projects that I build an improvement for my apartment or
Right.
do
Yeah.
something, and never actually put anything on video
Yeah.
or something.
I just do things, and people are like, "Well, you should document that,
Yeah,
and you should explain it to others." And I'm like, I don't have time for that. It's the same thing like at work. People are like, "Oh, what'd you do?" I said, well, I and then this is where I had to get better with my like memory management in my own brain. So when people are like at me, get coming at me at work at times, it's not been that aggressive, but there have been times like where people are doing that to me at work. I was like, well, I took care of this, I took care of that, I took care of this, and I took care of that, and I took care of that, and that. Then I took care of that issue. Would you? Yep, yep. And I check the code and go, yep, nope, I committed that. Here's the log. And they go like, oh, okay, thanks. But if I didn't have that sort of off the top of my head, I have to go research it and I have to go. So I just do things and I do lots of things and I don't, I'll comment, I'll document, I'll move on because I don't have time to do a video on all the things. Like to your point of building the Ender 3, right?
yeah,
You know, it took you longer to document it than it is to just do it.
yeah. I understand that, but my
Yeah.
goal is more to not show how I did it, but more like
Right.
that I did it, and that
Right.
hey, I built this thing from scratch, and then that's the point. Well, I haven't actually done it yet, so that's still a thing. So maybe in 2 years, if you ever see that video, well, that's how it
You know what
started.
happened. And the job would go, oh, right.
The idea for
I have
this,
proof that I did it. And OmniFocus agrees.
well, the idea for this came from Wintergarten Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
So like,
Got you.
what he's doing is actually pretty cool, because he doesn't actually show. He does sometimes show what he does,
Right.
but it's like it's only a part of it. It's like maybe he shows the start of like a CNC run, right? He'll
Mm-hmm.
do that, and then he'll do a funny wipe and something funny, and then goes into something else. And I
Well,
like that style, and I think that could be like a good way to do it, because
mm-hmm.
he doesn't spend too much time on actually documenting it, but more like after the fact, like showing what his thoughts were during the process of doing it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I didn't like this, so I swapped it out. And he had some stuff running in the background, but he was not focused on creating the content. He's like more the content's more like it goes with it. It's he's documenting it because he wants to make a video out of it, but he's not focused on making the video. He's just setting his workplace on fire, or drilling,
Right.
tapping the wrong
Right.
hole into
Trying to figure out what
something.
he's doing, how to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one of the things I like about the guy. Whatever we featured or I mentioned him as a link to his channel before. He goes by Alex French Guy. And that's what I like about when he does a series of something. And the
yeah,
series isn't necessarily sequential, meaning he'll work on his ramen thing, then he'll do his mozzarella thing, then he'll go back to the ramen thing. Like it's not like you go, when he's done, you can find like all 50 videos or whatever that might be. But he isn't necessarily every Wednesday. You expect another iteration of like it's a working thing
yeah,
until he said, I'm done with my ramen thing. And so when you go back in time and you sort of marathon some of these, you get to see sort of more of the transparency, the productivity for the video, and the failure, and then the iteration, and
yeah,
then the rethink, and then, over the course of time, where some people are just about the facade. I do everything perfectly. I'm amazing. hire me. I'm amazing. When you realize, no, you failed a lot, and I see your mistakes today. And I used to see that a lot with like AV creators, where they would come up, and then the first time that they were successful was like their first video that they entered, and I go, oh, dude, pull them aside and said, let me just, hit that chip off your shoulder. I said, because I can see your aspects of where you need to improve, and I'm happy for your success, but I see this, and this. You need to fix those things. By the way, I can see you failed a lot because you wouldn't have those things in your perfectly awesome video that is like on fire right now if you didn't have all that stuff. So please, let me just like go into your heart and rip your ego out. I said, because you don't deserve to have it yet. It's like, don't be obnoxious about it. Like, just be happy you did a good thing. Now be better. Right? And, sometimes you get someone who's obnoxious about it, and you just pull them aside and you just have a convo with them, and you can tell they failed a lot. Right? So not everyone is perfect out of the gate. You got to fail a lot.
That's what I like about. That's what I like about the what's his name, Martin from Wintergarten.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, he just goes and he has a vision, and he built everything in CAD, and now he's actually building it.
Yeah.
But he's taking everybody on the
journey.
He's not showing you how to make a marble machine. He's designing it and building it while, putting up the videos. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's not a how-to, because it's the whole concept of making the thing and designing it.
It's a documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I enjoy that a little more. I mean, obviously, Simone Yacht has not been as adventurous as she had been in the past, but I'm okay with the failure. Like I'm okay with the failure.
The failure is the project. It's the product.
That's what it's become for her. That was not her intent, but she was like, I got nothing to lose, so I'll show you the failure, or show you whatever I did and what I ended up with. And so while she has turned that into a thing that she seeks, she's now doing the opposite, which is less entertaining, which is, well, see if I cannot immediately fail at this. Is the effort that she's making.
That's the thing
now.
when you see one of the one day make things that Adam Savage does.
Right.
He has like he
goes through the iteration.
Yeah. He's trying to build something, and he doesn't really have a design ahead of time and just makes things.
Yep.
It's
the same thing. Sort of working through it.
The same thing that bothers my parents, or actually my brother and my father. I think it's something I inherited from my grandfather. Whenever I make something, like when I cook something, I don't use recipes. I just go at it and just, okay, this sounds good. This sounds good. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Free will your way through it.
Yeah, and then my parents like, oh, it tastes really good. How do you do this?
Right. So I do the same thing with coding. I do the same thing with maybe cooking a little bit. I mean, have some general idea what I'm doing before I do it, because I put a second of a thought into it. Well, I'm not just sort of like flying by the seat of my pants. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying like how I operate.
It's more like when I understand the way that the stuff that I use works. So if I have a certain spice that I like to use in my whatever I cook, then I know how that spice tastes when I treat it a certain way, or if I combine it with other stuff. It's not something that I instinctively know. It's something because I've messed up a couple hundred times.
Right.
That's why at some point I had a couple of weeks where I ate pancakes every day, and it's because I know how to make the recipe for like pancakes from scratch, and that's we did. I made pancakes at some point at your houses, right? Before a podcast recording, and that was during that time when I was trying to learn how to perfect a pancake recipe. It's like not American pancakes, but like Dutch style pancakes, pannenkoeken, as they call them.
Yep.
But I was trying to perfect that recipe, and I didn't know how to treat certain things. And there's a difference between cooking on gas, cooking on electric, like a coil, or on ceramic.
Yep.
And there's a different way how the heat it works on those things. So I had
It
to
all
figure
matters.
it
Yeah.
out on every single version. And then at the end, I make really great pancakes. And everybody's like, "How did you do this?" I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like,
I
and I
think
just do it.
it's a matter of it's a matter of iteration. So when I was making cold brew, and I decided last year around the holidays, I was gonna make four 16-ounce mason jars. So I was gonna make a liter of, but different kinds of cold brew. And I put a kit and I put it in the, and I told everybody about it. And it's not that it wasn't well received. It was that the ultimate issue was people were in our patterns. So they immediately got the coffee on the way to work, and that's their pattern.
Yeah.
Or they forgot about it. Or, and then the word cold gets in their way. They think it has to be iced coffee. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be iced coffee. You just mix it in with hot water or whatever it is. And they go, well, that sounds great. Oh my God, this tastes great. And then they just can't be bothered to come out of their habit, even if I made it easy for them, right? And so that's where it sat in the fridge, barely used or drank inside of a couple months. But the whole point was that for me to make 4 jars and to do that and in some succession inside of a week, I had to get good at clean up and making the cold brew instead of every few weeks, to do it in every single night and keep the timing correctly and keep on top of that. And so now when I do a cold brew thing, like I remember the days when it felt like it was such an effort and such, oh my God, the cleanup is now it's nothing. It's like, people are like,
Yeah.
oh, it's such a mess. No, it's not. Take a knife, do this, and this, da-da-da. Then little percussion therapy on the thing over the trash. Then do this, scrape it out, clean it up, boom, boom, boom. And they go, oh, that looks really easy. I go, it is that easy. You're just making a thing out of it because you didn't think about it.
Well, it's because
and the iteration of
new
that is I
things-
did that so often that I know how to do it pretty easily right now with my setup, at least.
when I start with something new, I don't feel scared of doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really look forward to the moment where I know how to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if there's a new recipe that I want to perfect, or there's something that I want to make my own version of it, right? So for example, certain types of candies that I like to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
You have to,
learning how to make caramel, how to make we have something called borstblad, which is sugar. It's very
Mhm.
sugary, and it's like you take one of those and you end up in a food coma, sugar coma in a minute. It's like pure sugar,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like cream in there, sugar and cream,
Hmm.
and you heat it till it hits like a specific temperature. But you can see that from the way that if you stick a fork in it in the water with the sugar in it, so there's sugar and cream, and it melts the sugar. I think there's also some water in there. It's been a while since I made it. But then there is a certain point where you pull the fork out of the solution, and it starts to make a string of the sugar,
Mhm.
and that's the moment where you pour it.
Yeah.
It's like that. That's when it's hot enough, and it's just right, and it'll just create like a crystal, but like also very. It's hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Great stuff. And they sell it every year around December,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like a seasonal thing. And I've been making them every year around this time because I know I can do it. And instead of buying it from the store, where it's like for a small box, it's like €3 or €4. I'm like, yeah, I can do this like for the same price. I can make like 6-7 boxes. I just do it myself. It's a lot more work, but it gives me the satisfaction of getting it right. It's the same thing with making apple pie. I make apple pie every year around this time of year, just because it's like it's more like an autumn dish, right? And I like doing it because I know all the ingredients that go into it, so I don't have anything like many preservatives and stuff like that. That there's some hippie people that I know that really like not to have that stuff in there. So, but I know what's in there, so they have no objections to eating the stuff. Although I do put a lot of Disaronno in it, which is like a liqueur. So there's alcohol in it. So some people might be offended by that. But we had a meeting, like we had an office meeting at some point, and I made apple pie. I made a little bit too much, and I put a little bit too much alcohol in it. So I gave everybody a slice ahead of time. I was like, yeah, there's alcohol in it. It was like a really boring meeting anyway, but
Yeah.
it got a lot more fun.
Yeah,
We're getting drunk off the apple pie.
I think by creating anything, you have to have iteration, and yet
Yeah.
you have to expect failure, and
Oh yeah.
you have to be cool with that. I remember going up sort of in my career where failure was not acceptable. Period. Period. Everyone expected you to be a doctor at whatever you did, even if it was the smallest thing. And everyone's ego was attached and tied up into that. And I remember this one guy, and he wanted to learn more about SQL. So he went and took some courses. And he had said, and he had no gumption about it. They said, "So how was the course?" He says, "Oh, I failed the test." And he didn't have any ego about it. And I go, all right. And no one negatively responded at that company about it. And then I was like, oh, okay. It's good to be transparent. Now, at this point in my career, I was already pretty much a badass just about at everything. So, what got me there was having to be good at things. But I'd always been very honest about it. So, my whole point about it is sometimes failure is acceptable. Obviously, your boss doesn't want to hear you failed at something vital or risky. But failure is an acceptable thing, and that's the same thing that goes with cooking, and iteration helps that.
Well, if you look at it for like the work perspective, like if you have a boss that's if you have a manager or something that trusts that you will do good,
Better.
and if there is a failure, if there's something he or she knows that you will try your best at fixing the problem if there is a problem, right?
So right, responsible about it. Yep.
If you are
ownership.
Like,
yep.
Yeah.
But my whole point about
it
it
is
is
also
that
it needs to be given, right?
Yeah, but also my point is that failure is okay. It's how you get perspective and how you get iteration, how you get better at making pancakes or making candy. I will say, just to kind of close out our log tangent, however long this has been, that when I recently made some cold brew for some people at work, so I said to him, I said, look, someone was having a conversation piece with me about cold brew and this and that, and I said, well, here's the problem. I started making cold brew on the notion, and then I started making it, and I learned what I like and I don't like, so I have an informed opinion about how I make it and an informed opinion of how I like it. And I see the faux pas every time I go to a restaurant and you ask for some cold brew and they say, yeah, sure. And they immediately hand you an iced cold drink made through a cold brew process, and they ice it over. And so the problem is that the word cold is a part of the process, not a part of how you present it and consume it. And so you can't go and get cold brew without it being super cold and iced over and this and that. And every time I have it in a place where it's done okay, it's not bad cold brew. It's like, and I will explain, it's not that I have bias, it's that I have an informed opinion of how you create it, how you do this, and this very thing that I get, that where it's well made from a restaurant, it's not made well enough because they clearly didn't put the care and time into what they did, because it has this aspect of it. I said, and you can neutralize it if you do this and this, and then every time I do that, it turns out I'm okay. I'm happy about it. But I get a little like, ooh, that's not right. You left it in too long. You did this wrong. You did it. Don't use that kind of bean, right? And it's because I have an opinion about it, because I have perspective. And so that's it. That was what my final summarization is, that failure will give you perspective, and perspective is healthy, even in failure, to the point of when you know what a successful version of whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So that was it. That was my
Pancakes.
old guy consolidation.
So I think I have a title for the episode.
Yeah.
Increasing pancake productivity.
Or just call it pancake productivity.
Oh, yeah, you could do that.
That's just, it's looser. No one knows what it is until they get this far into the show.
But increasing pancake productivity, it's like, it sounds better. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Anyway,
Yeah.
we have some fun stuff. So let's start off. The bad astronomer. I keep forgetting his name. Anyway, he put up some videos without commentary. One of them is whistlers, and whistlers are when you have a lightning storm.
Mm-hmm.
These produce like electromagnetic like sounds called whistlers. Polymatic.media/ly for that. It sounds really interesting. I think this has been pitched up so you can hear it better.
Right. Yeah.
But, and then there's another video by him. Well, actually by ESA, European Space Agency. There's a bunch of satellites around the Earth that are monitoring the width of the atmosphere, and they saw the Earth's air puff up in a solar storm. So Polymatic.media/LZ for that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Both of those videos are pretty cool. All right, so I have one here. Audi's PB18. I guess e-tron is in the video title. Kind of neat looking car. Clearly, I will never afford one, but pretty awesome looking car. Audi's been playing with electric vehicles and self-driving mechanisms and stuff for a long while, including like self-parking for a long while. So this isn't new. This isn't like response to Tesla. This is just sort of them doing what they normally do, which is sort of they have enough wealth to iterate and do some R&D. So this is sort of along those lines. Pretty cool vehicle, pretty awesome looking vehicle. If I could afford one, I'd still probably buy a Tesla.
You still couldn't get one because it's not available yet.
Yeah.
And it's probably never going to be available.
Yeah, but Polymatic.link/MZ. It's worth looking in.
M7.
Drilling.
M7.
What did I say?
MZ.
Oh.
It's M7.
M7. You're right. So Polymatic.link/M7. So next, because I'm doubled over here, Will It Nacho.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Rhett and Link. I finally subscribed, watching their stuff a little bit.
I have unsubscribed because their stuff has become very repetitive. They've been doing the same thing over and over again. And at some point, they broke up their show into multiple episodes. I understand that it works for the algorithm, but it's really annoying. I just want to get the one show and maybe see the after show. That was fine. But as soon as they started breaking it up into little pieces, I'm not going to open up all these things. They're in the wrong order. Yeah. So either publish it as like one episode and then break it up into tinier episodes on a separate channel. Fine, great. You get your viewership that way. It
was bugging you. So I don't come from that era, so I don't really know that. But you know, they have these like segments, right? And this one is called Will It Nacho. If you look at the preview title, you go, oh, okay. So now I understand the formula. They're always going to do something super gross at the very last one. So you can just skip that if you really don't love it. But I thought this was kind of fun. There were some good possibilities of Will It Nacho in there that looked like, oh, that might be pretty good.
Yeah, they had a show where they ate Carolina Reapers.
Yeah. I saw clips from that.
So good.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they had the Good Mythical More, which is like their after show thing, and they were still hiccuping and trying to survive, and then it let some of the other people in the studio eat the
Reapers.
Yeah. They had like a couple of episodes where they did the very hot things.
Well,
I think it's one of the episodes where I started following them.
They also did one with Sean Evans and Hot Ones.
Yeah. They're used to this stuff, and they start hiccuping. Right.
So anyhow, that was Polymatic.link/M8. They also have another little, like a show called Let's Talk About This or That, which is sort of follow up behind the scenes, insight on some things. I don't know. It looks like a fun group of people maybe to follow. I don't know yet, but I am. And that was Will It Nacho. Some of them look pretty tasty, though the last one, it's gross. You could just skip that one. You don't want to know. I can't believe they ate that. I wouldn't eat that. So Polymatic.link/M8.
Yeah, they've eaten some gross stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Not even for ratings would I want to do that.
Okay, so next one, it's kind of a silly thing. I've been playing lots of World of Warcraft recently, and I have one of the achievements is like to find a little bird, and then you take that bird out and you do all these instant runs like dungeons, and then but you have to keep the bird on your head. So if you get through all those things and you beat all those bosses and you get to the point where you've done all that, and then you get a bird whistle, and then you can just whistle, and then it comes and sits on your head for like an hour. There's no buffs, there's nothing that it adds to it doesn't have any benefit, just the bird. That's it. And that's this.
Is this your clip or is this someone?
No, there's somebody else. I just found it. It's like Polymatic.link/M0. The cool thing is, I don't think I can tell anybody about this. I don't think he listens to this show. Anyway, one of my colleagues also plays a lot Warcraft, and I think he has the achievement. But we bought him for his birthday, which is Monday. We bought him bought him like a plush version of the bird. And like they have, you can get like costumes in the game. So when you go around, you can pick up certain costumes. There's like a knight costume. There's a pirate costume. There's a ninja costume. There is a traveler costume, and then the traveler costume is what we got for him with the bird. It's cool. I like it. It's like one of those fun little side things that nobody initially found, and then somebody found and start, Yeah, it's fun. Polymatic.link/M0 for the whistle.
Okay. So there is there have been several, but there's only really one that I follow that does sort of Lego animatic kind of things. Stop motion.
Everything
stuff,
is
and
awesome.
This is,
Everything is awesome.
Yeah, that guy. So here's another one. He doesn't put out stuff that often, but he did this time. Verified user, Polymatic.link/M9. Makes some social commentary on the value of people we consider as celebrities who are not celebrities or have any real smart opinion.
They're not matter experts.
Nope.
So I saw this video. I had to put it in. What size magnet can erase your credit card? It was really, really cool to see. Like, though I'm not going to spoil it, but you see it very early in the beginning what size that is. So they also showed a part where they show the actual information on the credit card by dipping it into iron filings. Yep. And it's like, I never thought about that, but it's like, I thought they might have, encoded it in a different way, but it's like, it's almost readable. You can make a barcode out of it.
It's basically how things are recorded on your normal back in the day cassette tapes, not VCR tapes, like VHS stuff. That's
yeah, but I thought that the amount of information in there would have been like a little like more compact, right? But it's like really big, thick lines.
That's why you got to run it at a certain speed.
Yeah. Anyway, so what size magnet can erase your credit card by Physics Girl? Polymatic.link/M5.
Okay. So this is a long video, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Things you would never really thought about if you've ever followed like the slow-mo guys. It's interesting the correlation of when I found them in the very early days and pre-hype, because there was I think they're Dutch. It might be Dutch TV.
They're
UK. Fairlight and No. I'm not talking about slow-mo guys. I'm talking about another. There used to be without getting into a whole informed story, there was a television station somewhere not in the U.S. that had they were doing some crazy slow motion photography and videography for their variety shows.
Okay.
Where they would set like a whole tree on fire or something, and they would do the slow motion of it. Or what I remember, they would they would flip over a lawnmower, and then it would drop fruit on it. All kinds of stuff. And so I used to play that video for filler at places like, Otakon, and I was always on the search for this stuff, and this is where I found the slow-mo guys. So I've been following these guys forever. They're now in their height of their popularity, but to the point, there's lots of insight if you're interested on sort of how they got started in some moments. It's a long video, polymatic.link/MA. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting, but also I had some general investment in those guys in their channel and watching their videos. So,
speaking of long videos, Elon Musk was at Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience. I never actually watched an episode of that guy's podcast, but Polymatic.link/M6, and he does some things. So
look, it's I'm not even, like I said, I'm only like a third into this thing, but I find the conversation that has been going on, I haven't gotten up to the moment yet, generally interesting, and I've been following along, and I understand exactly what Elon is talking about a lot of the times. Whether I have the literal association to certain ideas, like he has, you got to keep in mind that he is using vernacular most correctly, not the way like us lazy Americans use words. Which is all over the place and not to its actual meaning or to its actual origin. So once you accept and understand that, it might be easier to follow him. I don't know if he's always strange, but certainly most of the moments he's very dry and he's very strange.
Well, you've seen that when he's at when he was at the Mars exploration thing.
Yeah,
he had a impromptu thing that he presented. And then weird people started asking him strange questions. It's like he was responding to them. At least he got exasperated by some of them. I understand that. He has an understanding of things.
Right. And
it's 10 times above the level of the crazies that come in and try to ask him crazy stuff. So I understand how he can get exasperated by that kind of stuff.
I feel that way about sometimes with conversation. How can we do this? When at work, and I've only
gone through the first 30 minutes, I think, and I've of course seen the moment that everybody's been talking about on Twitter.
Highlighted.
Yeah,
but I haven't gotten there yet. But I'm gonna work my way through the rest of the video. I've been finding it interesting. I don't know if you're interested in Elon Musk.
Polymatic.link/M6.
Yeah, this is probably the most I've heard him have a conversation that isn't calculated to 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? This is 2.5 hours. Joe Rogan got that much time with Elon Musk. So, yeah. So that was Polymatic.link/M6. Okay, so last on the list of fun stuff, again, just sort of a curious phenomenon that is Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's just sort of having a conversation piece briefly about why he doesn't use a phone cover to protect his phone.
I really like that idea.
Yep. I haven't gotten there yet.
So I have taken off the phone cover. I've taken off the phone cover of my iPhone. It's a new iPhone, so
you're gonna try it.
I'm gonna try it and then just put it back in the cover.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, so this is Polymatic.link/MB. As in Marcus Brownlee, MB. So yeah, I don't trust my ability to do it. So there's that. And the second thing is, if we compare, when everyone hears about that I broke my phone over almost close to, over 2 years, I broke my Pixel 1 phone, and the first thing they ask me is, "Oh, but did you have a case on?" I go, "Yes." And I go, but the case was protecting all the other sides where the phone didn't break.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, it went face down, and it didn't break at that space. It broke inside.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I like the idea, but then again, I think he has the money to buy a new phone if he breaks it. So
sure, yeah.
I think
I
that
get
might have
that.
something to do with it too. It's like,
I
yeah,
also, I
this is
mean, if
my
he's
thing,
got
this
the
is my
agility,
tool, right?
yeah. If you
Understand
got
it.
the agility, do it. That sounds cool.
Although I do have to say that when I had the Motorola Moto G and I have some other of the I think I had a Moto X Play at
Hmm.
some point. They were cheaper phones, so like $400, and I did abuse them,
Abuse him. Yeah.
and I didn't put a cover on them, and I didn't damage them, so I know I can do it. It's just that
I
I really like to keep this phone in pristine condition so I can
Yep.
sell it again in a couple of years.
My perspective on it is not so much that I'll sell them, though I probably should do that more often. I could recoup some cost.
Mm-hmm.
My perspective on it is that I like things that are grippable. While
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
and,
have
and
humongous hands,
these
I
phones are
like things that are
slippery.
grippable. So the first thing I do is I get a case that covers the bulk of it for the occasional drop, which is not high with me. And even then, they're pretty minor when they are. Like it fell off the chair onto the floor, carpeted floor, right? Not the kind of. And even my mistake from a few weeks ago was a unique situation where the phone broke inside, right? The impact was heavy enough that it kind of went from the inside out. And the rest of it is physically pretty good shape. I don't think there's any scratches on it due to having cases. But I buy a pop socket. I like having a grip around it. Like I like being able to hold it easily without a lot of strain. And so I put the pop socket on the case, and it works
I don't
out for
get
me.
those things. I don't understand them.
Well, you see how I'm holding it right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just easy. It's comfortable, and I can pick it up. And then more importantly, when I put it down, it's if I didn't compress it, it's lifted, and I can just pick up my phone without a lot of effort of trying to get it with hassle to get it around and up and over.
Is it a small hands thing? It's like people with tiny hands.
No, it compresses. I
No,
call
but
them vanity knobs. They were
Yeah.
initially designed for people to hold their selfies better, but I love it. It's perfect. It lets me put the phone. I can sweep my hand under it and grab it without a lot of effort.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy it. Now, I don't get the ones with like, unicorns farting or whatever rainbows, right? I'm not putting something tacky on the bottom of it.
So I should get you one with like a unicorn farting on it.
No, I just have with a solid color. In fact, in the last month's Loot Crate, we got one with a Batman one, and it's one of those large pop sockets, and so we put it on the back of my roommate's Amazon tablet, and it works perfect. It's easy to grip. It lets you be elevated. You can use it as sort of a lean stop if you want to kind of lean it upright in certain of a direction where it's like on the table where you're looking, at the thing pivoted. But no, I love it. And I looked at it, and for me, my goal wasn't the camera piece, right? Per the last conversation, it was like it's about the ease of using it. And I got one for a friend, and he's like, he just keeps commenting to me. He's like, yeah, no, I just use it, and people are like, what is that? And then he's like, I should be a salesman for them because I've sold so many. So, no, I like it. I like having some grip. So for me, being caseless is never a thing. I like some general protection, but I like having something that's grippable, and I don't really care if I'm putting fingerprints on it, but I'm pretty fingerprint-less because they're sealed between the case and the phone. So.
Yeah. Okay. So some music. I have the first one is Marika Takeuchi, I think is her name. Melding. She has a new album, Polymatic /M2. Really like the music. Yeah, you should look up the song on Spotify because she doesn't have it on YouTube.
Right. Okay.
But on the Spotify, you have the complete one.
Oh, really?
Which is
okay.
It's a lot nicer.
I liked what I heard.
Yeah. You should go check it out.
Yeah, Polymatic.link, that was M2.
Yep.
Okay, so not a new artist. I've mentioned her before. Maggie Rogers is starting to put out some new EPs or new singles. Give a Little. This is the video. I kind of like the song. I don't know if I bought it yet or not. We're getting into this world where people are only really releasing singles until they get enough saturation with that. Then they release the album that has most of the singles plus a couple more tracks that are only unique to the album. Which I just in the world where I'd rather give me the whole album, let me consume it. Well, don't be just iterating me with a bazillion for 2 years EPs. I hate that stuff. But nonetheless, this is what's going on. And Maggie Rogers put out Give a Little. Was a new track. In fact, I think there's a third track. Maybe there's been a few new tracks that have come out since then. Polymatic.link/MC.
I heard there's a little ditty in it that I recognize from somewhere else. It's I can't figure out where it is from, but I know I've heard it before.
There's lots of little, even in Oh Wonder, one of their songs starts up a certain way, and I think it's going to be this song every single time, and it's because I have hindsight. I've heard the song is not like what my brain expects. But, we're living in a culture where we're old enough where the younger generation is now inspired by things they heard when they were a little kid.
No, this is something that I've heard recently.
That they're iterating some of that stuff out of abstraction.
But the thing that I'm mentioning, I think I've heard it recently. So I've heard it in something that's been released a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
So there's
possible. Yeah, I don't know.
But again, there's no unique music anymore.
No. That was Polymatic.link/MC.
Anyway, so Uppermost, like his music. So Polymatic.link/M3 and M4. Those are this song Constellation, song. And he did one of them with an orchestra. Polymatic.link/M4 for that, and M3 is the original.
Yeah, I listened to it. I like it. I like it a lot. And that was M3 and M4.
Yep.
And then last, because of the name, but also just while I was on the path of talking about an artist I talked about before, is also releasing new stuff. Fleury has released, the video is a lyric video, so probably a real video is coming soon. Constellate. She released a whole new album. Chasing Stars. There's a whole bunch of new music, and I thought, you know what, this might be the weird overlap where John might like.
Oh no, I've had Fleury on my. I have a Spotify list. It's called Great Stuff, and I think it's on there too.
Yeah,
no, but that list is more than 24 hours long.
Yeah, the thing about it is, it's it gets on my nerves that we're in this world where it's all single, and okay, you can get it on Spotify and whatnot, but I don't listen to Spotify when I'm at work, because I generally have my own opinion about not doing that.
I like you listening to Spotify at work and at home, mostly at work, but that's where I discover new stuff, because they have the Discover Weekly list. That shows me new stuff that based on what I've listened to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know I've messed up the algorithm by putting some stuff in there that I like at some points, and then it starts giving me that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Is this a mood I had? Just go away. I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Yeah, you gotta thumb it down, or you say hide or ignore, or whatever it is. Skip.
So one of the things that kept happening was there is a group Above and Beyond. It's just like a Monster Cat type deal. They have lots of artists, and they use a podcast, and they bring out the podcast, and they put those songs up from the podcast, but they put little pieces of whispers over it, Above and Beyond Group Therapy, they call it, right?
Yeah.
And it's sod off. I hate this. Don't put this over music. They have their little. The music is fine. It's great. I like the music. Just don't do that. You're pissing off. And I put a Reddit post up there. I was got lots of responses. I'm yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the only kind of things about. That's the kind of issue I had initially with Spotify. If I listen to Spotify, I listen to it very specifically on my weekend, on a day like this when I might actually have some bandwidth. and I might have control over my environment in such a manner where I can play it out loud and I can do some coding,
Yeah.
and I don't have to be placating to the disruption of friends or my roommate.
Well, that's why I wear headsets.
Yeah,
Same with the
but
office.
even then, I care about my hearing, and so sometimes I like. And I'm not listening super loud. I'm considerate to the neighbors. It's not anything like that. It's just like I want it to be in the room, and I don't want it to be jammed in my ears all the time. So, and that's a matter of having control over your environment, because I see using my headphones as hiding in plain sight.
I think it's also, I saw a really great Twitter post about this, about people using the headphones at work to be able to finish stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You use it as like your disguise, like your stealth.
Oh, I got you.
Stealth thing. So if somebody has headphones on, don't bother them.
Right. Well, that never stopped anyone at work. They still bother me.
Yeah, they still go over Slack and stuff, right?
No, not even that. They'll look at me and go, "Are you on the phone?" No.
So
my
for me,
headphones, and I give them a motion to say, "Hold on for a sec," and I pause the thing that's dangling over my, past my ear, and then I stop and I pull them out, and then I talk to them. So that's the price they pay, and I don't do it to be a jerk. I just do it to hold on, give me a sec, let me manage my back into reality here, also note next time that I'm listening to something.
So at the office, we have like 3 rooms in an office building. It's like our office is not that big. We do everything online, so there's like no need to constantly be there. But it's like there's a little route that they can take, and I can see them coming. Because I can see them coming from a mile away.
Right.
It's like not like from a physical mile away. It was just like I can see them coming around the corner, and the look on their faces when they see me and I notice them is like enough for me to, okay, so they need something from me. They do a little dance or like a little walk of like,
to see if you're there.
Can I?
Are you in a mood? Can I talk?
Oh
to
no,
them?
I'm never in the mood for that. So I was like, yeah, go away, don't bother me. It's like they know that they're awakening Cthulhu when they do this. But hey, let's continue on. Books. I have listened to a book, The Others by Jeremy Robinson, narrated by R.C. Bray. I've talked about R.C. Bray before, but he's like really, really busy. He does a lot of books. So I discovered him through this book through Audible's suggestion. Hey, you should really have a look at this one. It's like, and it's been nagging me about it for a couple of times. And I'm like, okay, I'll have a look at it. And then one of the first things, it is not what you think it is. When you look at the cover, it shows you like a little UFO, and then somebody below it with like a beam coming out of it, like he's being abducted or something. It is not that. It is so much greater.
I'd never seen the cover, but I would just immediately think it's like a horror thing. The Others.
Ghosts. There's horror. There is some of that involved, of course, but it's not. It's very. Than that? It's very. There's a lot of humor in it. Okay. Like I on Twitter recently I said I mentioned that the book nearly killed me. Actually, I was reading it. I was listening to it, and there's a callback at some point in the book to something that happens in the very beginning, and it was so funny that I had a little bit of throat ache, so I used a lozenge, and I was lying on my bed listening and scrolling on Twitter, and then suddenly that came up, and I just inhaled the lozenge, and it nearly killed me. But it was so funny that nearly killed me. So Polymatic link/M1. It's very funny in the beginning. It's a little bit more serious at the end. I liked it. I liked it a lot. If you have like an Audible thing, or if you've never listened to anything, this is a very good starter. It's very, very. It's not long, per se, but it is entertaining, and I think you can easily stop it and start listening again like the next day or something. It's a very good followable book. It's like a UFO road trip. Basically, it begins at some point and then it escalates completely. It's like it's funny. Polymatic.media/M1 for that.
Okay.
I think we're at the end then. Alan, where
yeah,
can they
for
find
like
you?
2 hours. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter. My last name Chaess. You can also find me hanging out on many Mastodon, but the one I would probably send you to would be my first name, ALAN @JAWNS.club.
I'll put that on Polymatic.media/social. I think is the link.
Okay.
So you can find me at Twitter, WebDevie. For feedback, you can reach us at podcast@Polymatic.media. The music is by Say Uns, which you can find at Polymatic.link/EK. Our Twitter is The Polymatic. Our website is Polymatic.media, and I hope you tune in next time.